Hello and welcome to my team builder and battle video for the week 1 of the CPC. This week we are up against Volume, his link will be in the description, and you can see his team on the screen. I'll be going into my team builder in a minute, but first I just wanted to talk about his team. He obviously has Jirachi, Sylveon, Hydreigon, Donphan, Entei, Superior, Mega Medicham, Lantern, Articuno, and Slaking. 10 mons, one more than me. And his team has very good options. You can see his average stats, they're all hovering around the 90 range, and that's including some useless ones, like what are you going to do with Sylveon's attack stat, for example, or things like that. But the big thing I noticed when I looked at this matchup was his speed. Now, his speed isn't that bad, but there is a massive gap from base 67 with Lantern to Articuno with 85. And Lantern, it's never running max speed, and Articuno, I just don't think Articuno is going to be coming to the game. So that means, in practice, when I was looking at this team and looking at my options offensively, there was a speed gap of practically from 60, which is Timid Sylveon, which I did actually think would be a threat, and Hydreigon at 98. So there is a massive speed gap there, and I've been trying to go for that particular speed gap in my speed EVs. Basically, there's 3 mons on my team that are guaranteed to just outpace a Sylveon, and there's a couple that are guaranteed to outpace Scarf Timid Sylveon as well, just because there's no real point. There wasn't really a point in just outspeeding Superior when Scarf Sylveon is only something like 20 EVs more and could lose me the game, so yeah. Now, offensively speaking, this is a really difficult matchup for me to try and deal with defensively, because he has Mega Medicham and Jirachi, and I don't have a Psychic Resist. So he can literally just use those two offensively, and I do not have a resist for their stabs. Because Calm Mind Jirachi with Psychic, Mega Medicham in general, I don't have a way of really defensively checking them, so this means that for week 1 we've got to go offensive, as offensive as possible practically. And on top of this, the rest of his team, stuff like Sylveon has a really good matchup against me if it just runs Sideshock and predicts my Nihilego correctly. Donphan is incredibly likely, I've found, for a lot of things in my team really, in particular stuff like the Lucario and the Nihilego, and yeah, there's only a couple things that I really don't think are coming. First of all, Slaking, that's not coming, just outright, it's not coming. Second of all, Articuno, I don't anticipate Articuno coming, just largely because it really pressures him to have much more of an emphasis on hazard control than I think he wants to. And don't get me wrong, he can do that, but I don't think it's something he will do, considering, you know, his hazard removal is only Donphan. I do have a spin blocker, and the spin blocker itself does get rocks, so it's not that reliable, and on top of that, it's not like Donphan is the hardest thing in the world to check either. So Articuno, I also don't think is coming, and the rest of his team, all of them could come. It just depends on really what he wants to do, in my opinion. So, looking at this from an offensive standpoint, as I've already said, I'm going offensive because I don't have a switch to his offensive threats. I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, so I've got the massive speed gap. What can I do in it? And I've decided to do a couple of things. First of all, Nihilego was the first mon on my team because I know that Toxic Spikes are going to be really useful in this matchup. Now the EV spread is a little bit wonky. It's specifically, I'm outpacing Jirachi and Mega Medicham, and I have just enough special attack that if I was to get a boost, if I was to get a kill with Grass Knot, I would have my special attack raise, make him think that I am potentially more specially offensive than I am. And the 112 in HP is just generally so that I can live hits. I also have the Berry, so that if things like Iron Head Jirachi or Flash Cannon Jirachi come, then I can potentially live a hit and go for Thunder Wave, and that would be nice in general. Also covers stuff like Mega Medicham's Bullet Punch, so I can Thunder Wave that. or set up a layer of hazards on that. And yeah, the moveset is just Stealth Rock, Toxic Spikes, Grass Knot, and Thunderwave. Thunderwave slows things down, Toxic Spikes wears things down, Grass Knot wears other things down, and wait, what? No, Grass Knot doesn't do that. Stealth Rock wears other things down, and Grass Knot is basically, I can 2-hit KO his only hazard remover with Grass Knot on the switch in, and that's very important to me. So yeah, that's the Nihilego set. Now on to some of the more outspeeding Sylveon options. First of all, Lucario. His team does not like dealing with Lucario, and I've made this a Sword Stance, a regular offensive Lucario with Sword Stance, Extreme Speed, Close Combat, and Iron Tail. Iron Tail, I'm not expecting to use Iron Tail much this game. It's only really going to occur if I need to hit the Sylveon, and I'm not already at +2, because stuff like +2 Close Combat, and especially +2 all-out pummeling will just kill the Sylveon. But Extreme Speed, the only reason that I had not to put set for this benchmark was potentially stuff like Adamant Entei, but I really didn't anticipate Entei to come in the game, just because I do have a Zygarde, I do have a Manaphy, and I have a Nihilego. So I don't think that Entei has that good of a matchup against me. It's not bad, necessarily, but with the options that I have offensively, I think I can deal with it. So yeah, Extreme Speed, +2 Extreme Speed after rocks and 2 turns of poison damage from the Toxic Spikes. I think it will kill everything on his team aside from stuff like the Hydreigon and the Donphan, and both of them go down to Z Close Combat quite easily. So yeah, this is actually 1 EV point too many. Let's just put it in defense, it doesn't make any difference. So yeah, this is basically my sweeping option for the week, in my opinion. It's what I'm basing this team around, basically, because I think that this is my most likely chance to get a sweep in this week, because he's got stuff for the Manaphy, he's got like Carmine Sylveon, he's got things like Superior, and with regards to Swellow, it's not as good this matchup just because of things like Lantern and Sylveon and Jirachi, whereas Lucario, nothing really wants to take on a possible Lucario after a few bits of chip damage, which I can get thanks to my hazards. Now, that is my primary setup sweeper, but I can't go a week without more than one setup sweeper, and so Manaphy is a subbed Hellglow, Ice Beam, and Scald set. This will again just outspeed a Sylveon, and at +1 it will just outspeed Scarf Sylveon, also speed creeping the Superior as an option, and yeah, just max HP so that I can live hits if he's something like a Scarf Jirachi locked into Iron Head, or in general it can live more hits this way. And given that I have only got 20 EVs and speed required, I can just go practically full a special attack, and it's just very, very nice for me. Now, I didn't quite go with 236 HP, 252 attack, just because the extra EVs in special attack don't do anything for me in particular, and there's always the chance that you could live on 1 HP with Manaphy when you would have died otherwise, so I just decided to go with the HP instead of the special attack here. If the special attack doesn't do anything, I'm not going to prioritize it over the HP, so yeah. But near max Modest is practically max. It's only 16 EVs away from max. That's 4 points. So might as well put those 4 points to something that it actually does something with. And this thing at +3 can OHKO basically everything with this team. The only 2 things it can't are potentially things like Spadef Rachi and Spadef Sylveon, and Lantern. It also can't really touch Lantern, but I do have ways of trying to lure in the Lantern, and I'll get to them. But yeah, this is an incredibly powerful set versus him. Subbed Hellglow with the Slackberry. I think it's very, very good versus him, and we will have to see in the game what ends up happening. But it's something that if Lucario doesn't work, if he's brought a team that just deals with Lucario well, or if he gets unlucky and gets burnt or something, Manaphy can easily check it, and this also covers one of Lucario's main weaknesses against his team, that being the Entei, because a +2 extreme speed from Lucario is a 2-hit KO, and it's a roll to 2-hit KO as well, assuming no hazards on the Entei, and Manaphy just 100% deals with all Entei, so yeah, that's very fun for Manaphy. I mean, I guess stuff like Sunny Day Solar Beam, I guess, is something that Entei could run to beat Manaphy with, but I don't know. I mean, Manaphy can pretty reliably deal with basically every Entei it will run into, and Lucario appreciates that greatly. Yeah. Also, Sub is just nice to rack up extra toxic damage or extra poison damage with T-Spikes, and is nice just for scouting things. The only downside is that obviously Hyper Voice will go through it, but yeah. So I mentioned that I have ways of trying to lure in the Lantern, and this also tries to lure in the Sylveon as well. I have Metronome on my Swellow. Now, if you don't know Metronome, I'm not surprised, it's a pretty niche item. But essentially, it increases the power of my moves by 1.2 times every time I use that move consecutively. Or in other words, the first time I use Boom Burst, it does normal damage. The second time, it does 1.2 times that damage. The third time, it does 1.4 times the first damage. Fourth time, 1.6, etc, etc. Until it maxes out at 5 turns when it does twice the damage of a normal Boom Burst, which is significantly stronger than even stuff like Specs Boom Burst Swallow is. Literally, if I hit 4 Boom Bursts, it's stronger than Specs Swallow. But yeah, it's just something I don't think is really prepared for, and the better part about Metronome, in my opinion, is that it could do a thing where he's going to calc, probably, to see what my Swallow Spec is. First time, if he switches it in, he can see that it does however much damage, he calcs it and figures out my spread and figures out what roll it is. And then second time, because it's 1.2, he thinks, okay, maybe that's a roll range, maybe this is like modest, and he just got a really low roll the first time, and he has a boosting item of some sort, but then from the third and fourth hit, it's not expected. You don't do continuous calcs to see what it is, and so the Boom Burst damage can easily accumulate significantly until it can mean that I can just break something that I wouldn't otherwise be able to. Examples of this include stuff like Carmine Sylveon, the Lantern in general, because I do have some SPDF investment, although it should be more than that. I do have some SPDF investment so that I can take hits like Volt Switch and Discharge from it if I need to. The Discharge I'm half expecting just as a way of paralyzing me, basically, as opposed to T-Bolt. But yeah, on top of this I have U-Turn and Heat Wave just as general good moves. U-Turn obviously gives me momentum, and Heat Wave hits Jirachi and nothing else. And finally I have Tailwind, because Tailwind really helps stuff like my Lucario and especially my Marowak, which I'll get to in a moment, just to sweep. Because Lucario, when it's outspeeding everything, it's already adamant, it does have the Z move, and he does not have a Ghost type. And his fighting resistance Sylveon, which just gets OHKO'd by +2 all-out pummeling. And yeah, it would be nice to just outspeed everything and just be able to terrorize them all with Lucario. And especially if I can get to +2 speed and have Marowak outspeed everything. Now, this is my designated spin blocker. It can switch into a defensive Donphan and live an EQ guaranteed. Flare Blitz is doing an immense amount to everything because I have Rock Head, because his electric type is Lantern. I'm not switching in on Lantern anyway. And I have Shadow Bone just as an alternative stab option. It means that I can hit things like the Medicham and hit things like the Entei for more damage, basically. And I finally have Will-Wisp and Swords Dance. Swords Dance is specifically because there's not really a good move for this option. I could go Knock Off, I could go Return or something, just so I can hit Hydreigon. But Swords Dance I think is just basically fine, because a +2 Flare Blitz would KO Hydreigon anyway, and this is only for in the completely unlikely situation I can get off a Tailwind with Swellow, as he has only 3 mons left, or 2 mons left or something. I get 4 turns of Tailwind specifically with Marowak, and can just Swords Dance and OHKO everything. So it's not likely, but I'm hoping that Marowak can put in the work because it's really, really fun. And it actually has been putting in a lot of work in my mocks. I had a couple of mock battles and Marowak was pretty consistently doing stuff like 50% to defensive Donphan. And it was living in an EQ as well, so it 1v1s the Donphan. And it's just incredibly, incredibly fun. I love Marowak and I'm going to love using it this season as well. So, that is my Marowak set. And the final mon was a toss-up. I was going between this and with Glalie, just as a way of using Glalie, basically. And I've gone with Zygarde, and I've gone with a sub Dragon Dance, 1000 Arrows, and Iron Tail sets. Again, I've gone with the same speed benchmark, outspeeding Sylveon, so that Iron Tail can just kill it. I'm going with the Archie Berry so that I have a consistent Medicham answer, and also if he is bringing a Icy Wind Jirachi, which is actually the reason this is on this team as opposed to Glalie, because a special Super Rachi just kind of blew me back in a mock. Then I have a guaranteed answer for that as well. I have 1000 Arrows, I have the Dragon Tail, I have the Iron Tail. Substitute, I'm mostly just expecting that to be used if I'm ever 1v1 versus the Lantern or something, and I know that I can live a hit. But Substitute is basically there because there's not really a good, unnecessary move in that sort. I could go Outrage so that I can kill the Superior, but then it's got its own problems in the fact that I'm then locked into Outrage, and it's got ways of taking advantage of that with stuff like the Jirachi and the Sylveon. So yeah, that is the team builder. I hope that people enjoy the team, and now let's just hop into the battle. So I get into the battle, and the first thing I see is that most of the mocks I had were pretty spot on, with the average being Donphan over Hydreigon, and I was actually quite surprised that Hydreigon came at all, because I do have a Togekiss, which kind of just deals with most Hydreigon sets quite easily. But he does have Jirachi, he has Lantern, and he has Sylveon, so I can understand why he's gone the way he has. And the good news for me, he does not have a hazard remover, so I can literally just lead Nihilego and just set up my T-Spikes turn 1 and have them start wearing down on his team. And then even just set up Rocks turn 2, because there's only one thing that can OHKO me, and that is the Medicham, and I will take T-Spikes going up in exchange for my Nihilego. But that's even assuming he leads Medicham, because I could always just lead with something like my Swellow, like my Marowak, like my Zygarde, and I don't think he would risk it that early on in the game. So, I do just that. I just choose to lead off with my Nihilego, as he actually leads off with Lantern, and Nihilego is so specially bulky, I know I can take 3 Scolds before this thing kills me. As he goes for a Scald, gets a crit, that's annoying, as he does 44% to me. I just get up my Stealth Rock here because I know I'm fine, and he crits me again, and I'm now in range of another Scald. So that's unfortunate on my part, but he does go out into the Medicham. I can no longer T-Wave it, I'm fine with that though, because I can just get off the Grass Knot damage here. And unless he has Drain Punch, this means he's basically in range of a normal E-Speed, just in general, from Lucario. I want one more turn of Toxic Spikes just to be sure of this, so I go into Swellow because no matter what, it's fine basically. And he goes into his Lantern here, and I go for Boom Burst, doing a clean 32%, telling him that I am Scarf, or just not boosting item at all. And then there's the second Boom Burst, which does 40%, which still looks to be within possibility of a roll. As he goes for the Volt Switch, he goes out into his Sylveon right here, and he just chooses to Wish Up, as my Boom Burst is now exceptionally powerful, and is doing 45% to a Sylveon, which has 130 special defense. And yet here he's probably getting a little bit suspicious, goes for Protect so that he can get his health back, because he doesn't just want to sack off his Sylveon. And here I go for a final Boom Burst with Swellow, knowing that I'll die this turn to the Hyper Voice, as it does 67% to a Sylveon. A Sylveon that was designed to take out the Swellow, and Swellow didn't get any kills this game, but it took out practically the Sylveon, and Lantern is now actually at 10%. It's at range of dying from rocks as soon as it comes back in. So Swellow effectively killed 2 Pokemon thanks to the strength of Metronome, and I am delighted to see that because I was so hoping that that set would work. Here I choose to go into Marowak because I feel like it's my most expendable Pokemon here. He goes for the U-turn. I was expecting that, which is why I stayed in, but I also don't have a good switch into the Hydreigon, and I have ways of taking advantage of it with the rest of my team. as I do just choose to go for a Flare Blitz here. And here he goes into Hydreigon and goes for Dark Pulse, kills off my Marowak. I'm fine with this. Marowak is doing practically nothing for this game, and here I actually make a misplay. I should not have gone into Manaphy there. I probably should have gone into my Lucario. Now at this point it's not confirmed that he is Scarf Hydreigon, but just looking at his team and the makeup of his team, it feels likely that he is Scarf Hydreigon, just because of his lack of really fast threatening threats. But at this point I wasn't certain if it was Scarf Hydreigon or Scarf Jirachi, and my thought process was essentially, okay, I can go into Manaphy, he can't kill me even with stuff like Draco Meteor, and if he specs Dark Pulse, which I obviously can't tell, then after I sub, I'll put into Salak Berry range. I can then just fire off to Ice Beams and get damage on things, and put him in range of E-Speed. So it wasn't really a misplay, but in the context of him being Scarf, it was a bit of a misplay. That was... I can't breathe sometimes when I'm saying this sort of stuff. It reminds me of being in call with Verd. So here, he does just use to switch out into his Superior, and I was actually considering going for Tail Glow there because there was a chance that Specs Dark Pulse could just knock me into Select Berry range, but I'm glad I did go for the sub, as he goes for the Giga Drain and restores most of his HP, but I then see that he is Life Orb, which means that he does not have Yachi Berry, which means that with the Toxic Spikes racking up, he'll be nearly in range of my Ice Beam, and then he goes for Leaf Storm, putting him in guaranteed range of my Ice Beam from my Manaphy, meaning I can just kill off the Superior here, and I am a Manaphy behind a sub. I can just stay in and attack whatever is in front of me, and then set up for a Lucario sweep. Here he goes into Jirachi, and I just go for a Scald, see if I can get the burn, and I actually do get the burn, but that damage tells me he's Spadef Rachi. He wasn't Scarf Rachi, which means that I'm practically certain that this is a Scarf Hydreigon at this point. And Jirachi, you see here, because he goes for 2 Zen Headbutts and they both hit, Jirachi without the burn could not have broken my sub anyway, so it didn't matter much. And here I go for a Scald, and I get a crit. That's kind of unfortunate for him, but not really, because... Okay, let me just expand on this slightly. If I was Scalded there, and he went for Zen Headbutt, which he did, he would have broken my sub. And then after breaking my sub, I would have put him in range of about like 20-odd%. So I could have Tailbowed again, and Jirachi would probably Zen Headbutt me again, and could potentially, although it was really unlikely, knock me out with a roll with the next hit. I would Tailglow again there, and then I would probably see what he wanted to do. And basically at this point, no matter what happens, even if he kills me with Jirachi, I guarantee win with my Lucario. And so yeah, he goes into his Medicham here, fakes out, and I can just Scold, kill off the Medicham, which only got... Did it only get 1 kill? Or did it not get 1 kill? He only got 1 kill in this entire game, despite being so scared of it. He confirms he is Scarf Hydreigon by outspeeding my +1 speed Manaphy, and I just go into Lucario here and just go for Z, all out pummeling, Z, close combat, whatever. What is the usmology of that? I don't get it. And just kill off the Hydreigon. He did not even have flinches as a possibility of winning, because I was in a focused Lucario, something I had actually forgotten in the game, and was genuinely afraid of meaning that I would lose the game. But, okay. Say, for example, he sees what I'm doing and just decides to sack off his Jirachi and make sure that I don't just, get the free switch into my Lucario. There's nothing he can kill me with that doesn't invite in either Lucario or Zygarde to completely win the game. If he goes into, say he just sacks Jirachi, Manaphy stays in but is not got a sub. He goes into Hydreigon, which is normal because it would outpace it. It goes for Dark Pulse, I can go into Lucario. He goes for Dragon Pulse, I can go into Lucario. He goes for, what does he even get, like HP, Electric, Lucario and Manaphy don't share a type weakness. If he goes for Fire Blast and gets a crit because he's modest or something, then it still would mean that I have an option. I have DD Zygarde in the back, it has DD, it has Yachi, and yeah, even if you went into like Medicham first, killed off Manaphy with Fake Out, I can then go out into my Zygarde. I have the Yachi Berry. I can just fire off I don't even think I'd fire off anything. I think I would go for just a normal Dragon Dance, and then goes into Hydreigon, he has to click a Dragon Move in order to kill me, and then I can set up with my Lucario and can guarantee kill him, because after 2 more rounds of Rocks damage, his Hydreigon would be in range of Stealth Rock, of plus 2 E-Speed damage, because I am Adamant Lucario. So I definitely had that game, it just meant that the quit on Jirachi made it more obvious that I had that game. So, yep, I hope you guys enjoyed my week 1 CPC match. I know I spent a lot longer on my team build than usual, but I'm trying to both improve myself as a team builder for the format and trying to educate people on what I'm thinking, because I know some of my set choices are kind of just whack. So I'm going to be trialing this this Excel document basic thing before for the CPC, see if people like it, and if they do, I'll continue it into the NPL next season as well. And yeah, I also think that it's something that adds insight, because I'm now seeing the average stats, I'm seeing what he's strong in, what he's weak in, and I'm looking and I'm actually seeing this speed cap now that I wasn't before. So yeah, sorry if you don't like the new format, but it is sticking around. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Peace.